It's live now.
Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll make it 7 o'clock. There's no time on here. Oh, yes, there is. Yeah, 7 o'clock by my notebook. Are you recording, please, Colin?
It's live streaming, so we'll have the recording on YouTube.
Right, okay. Right, just to warn everyone then that we are recording and it's all going live as well. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the planning meeting today. First on the agenda, apologies for absence, please, Vicky.
Councillor Crooks.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2, declarations of pecuniary interest. Anyone? No? Okay. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. May I sign these as a true record? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Liz Smith. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Tony Brown. All those in favour, please show. Matters arising from those minutes, which is item 4. Page 165. Page 166. Page 167. That's it. Thank you. Item 5. This is Simon Holmes. These are Silverton, and architect, who's the architect, I presume, because there was a comma there, and Stuart McAdam, to give a PowerPoint presentation on Haverhill Phase 2B planning application for land on Northwest Haverhill.
Hi, I'm Liz Silverton. Yes, I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay with my presentation.
Okay.
Are you able to see that?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so the application we're preparing to submit is for parcel 2B as part of the wider master plan, which is situated just south of 2A, which was approved on the 20th of November back in 2020. I'm just going to circulate there. That's 2B. And within the design code, sets out character areas across this site, which phase 2B falls within under a separate character area for 2A, which has a more simple, clean architectural vernacular. So this plan here highlights the character area plan taken from the design code. As you can see, phase 2B is within this purple zone, whereas 2A was within the orange zone. So in addition to the character area plan, there are other parameter plans as well, setting out the principles of the development, one of which was the road hierarchy plan highlighted here in this box. So using this as our basis, we have engaged in various workshop meetings with both Penny and Colin to evolve the design concept and to achieve their aspirations for the development. So I've included a copy of our concept plan, which has set out our road hierarchies, building form and wayfinding. Our main focus for the development for Penny and Colin was actually to create smaller character areas within this phase. So I have highlighted on this plan as we were talking through with Penny and Colin, numbers 1 to 6. So these all create different character styles in themselves. So starting with number 1, the avenue, highlighted here on these 2 corners. So it's a continuous built form with 2 gateway buildings turning the corner to create that sense of arrival. And we felt like this gateway required some height as you enter the site, and then it transitions down in height as you enter the urban square within the heart of the site. So this urban square, noted as number 2, we wanted to increase the amount of green space in the middle of the site, so you can use this as wayfinding in the site. This central square then leads on to number 3, which are the 2 muse courts that lead out towards the west and the east of the sites. So the muse courts is a formal character area following the gradient of the site, allowing for terraced units to step while still maintaining the continuous built form. To allow for this, we've included rear parking courts. You can find that in behind these muse courts here. So number 4 was just listed in the rear parking courts. Number 5 is the neighbourhood square. So this is an enclosed courtyard here with 3 sides, with central landscaping feature and pedestrian friendly shared surfaces. The last character area is number 6, which is around the outskirts of the site. These are predominantly lower density with larger detached units to create a more organic edge to the development. So that sets out our character areas that we discussed as part of our workshops with Penny and Colin, which we went away and had a look at progressing the site plan. So I've highlighted here, these are the character areas we spoke with Penny and Colin about. I've highlighted on the plan so you can see where they are, but I might just skip to the next slide just so you can see the main site plan. So this is on the back of our concept plan. We've worked this up to include these gateway buildings here. As you can see, we've marked up an elevation to illustrate. I've also included an example of Haverhill, where it's quite common to see the stepping of the topography of the site, and you'd see a step within the roof form while still having a continuous built form. Go on to the next slide. The next slide is the story heights plan. So this just highlights the elements at the front of the site, 4 stories, reducing down to 3 stories. So within the design code, this whole street is set out to be the highest story heights, and then reducing down to 2 stories, and also elements of 1-story bungalows as well. So the next slide is materials. We have included examples of the clean and simple palette of materials, including buff brick, red brick, render, and weatherboarding. To add interest and variety without adding too many materials, we are proposing various brick detailing. So I'll show you this in more detail on the next slide. To create shadow lines and interest, we have proposed projecting brickwork banding to the ground floor with a single vertical brick band above. This simple detail provides interest but still remains simplistic with one material. As mentioned previously, we are proposing weatherboard and render as an alternative contemporary solution. So I've added in a couple of instances here with weatherboard. So keeping the Muse Court simple as a typical street scene of Haverhill, we've proposed a single vertical brick banding in red brick to emphasise the stepping in the roof line and the buildings. And at the bottom here, I've just included a typical street scene as well. So I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add, Stuart?
Sorry, I'm on mute there. Yeah, I think members of the council, this is just taking it forward from the presentation I did before Christmas with you all, to give you a flavour of what was coming in. And thanks, Lisa, for that presentation. It's a quick whirlwind tour of what we're proposing just now, just to give you an idea of what might come forward. And as you know, probably the application was registered today. That coincidentally, it had been submitted a few weeks ago, but we were waiting for final landscape plans to come forward. So the suite of drawings is accompanied by some detailed landscaping for you as well to give consideration to. And hopefully you all received some weeks ago as well, just prior to me submitting the application, a copy of the design access statement, which I submitted with the application. And hopefully you will have had a chance to look through that and give consideration to the schemes prior to tonight's meeting as well. So happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'm sure you will have questions about the development now. And just to advise you that now that you have been officially consulted by the council, you will have a chance to make further comments on it. And again, I'm happy to attend another meeting if need be prior to you making your comments once you've had an opportunity to consider the full application that's before you now.
Anyone want to talk on this? Councillor Mason?
Good evening, everyone. Okay, I think it's an interesting development, and as I mentioned before on the last presentation, very much welcome the move away from the Corby and Peel four-storey structures from the southern part of the plot, which was very close to Anne Suckling's road. I remain a little bit disappointed that we still seem to have a four-storey structure on the building. And so one of my first questions on the site, one of my first questions is, under the old master plan, it was that no building was to be more than 3.5 stories. There are examples of three-storey buildings with a pitched roof. And I understand the argument that a four-storey building is perhaps less in height than a three-storey building with a pitched roof, but the slab of wall is considerably larger. So can I ask, what justification do you feel you have as planners to kind of go against the original guidance regarding suitable housing heights for this plot, please?
Yeah, if I can, I know Lisa in her presentation explained the theory behind it to allow for a gateway entrance into the site, and that is the reason for increasing the height there above the buildings on either side. We accept that it is in contradiction to the design code, Councillor Mason, and we've put the justification together. Now, the council at West Suffolk haven't said whether that's acceptable or not. They did say to us when we put it in, make the justification, and then we will consider it when it's submitted. So we're not putting it in as a fait accompli, and no one has agreed that as yet. That's our justification, that provides a gateway entrance, and that the height of the flat roof at 4-storey is less than a pitched roof and a 3.5 storey. So yes, that's our justification we've tried to make to the council and to yourselves to hopefully gain support for it. We haven't put 3.5-storey along that frontage to the infrastructure road where we could have increased the height of it. We felt it was more important to create that gateway and landmark feature buildings just in that corner of apartment blocks. It works better with our format, in all honesty, to have the 4-story block of apartments there than it does a 3-story. It becomes more viable. So I'm probably not answering your question. I'm just trying to explain the reasoning behind that, but no decision has been made, obviously, by the council yet. So I appreciate what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Okay, can I follow up, Chair? Chair, can I ask another question?
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
No, that's fine. Thank you for that answer. I would imagine, there'll be some debate. It's quite an interesting idea, having a gateway. For me, it looks more like a cityscape on the peripheral of a suburban area, and is a bit challenging to the eye. That I think is out of context with the rest of the development, but I'm sure there's plenty of time in the future to discuss that. The plans very much talk about the housing plot. I'm actually just seeking reassurances on some things you've mentioned previously. One is the allotments. There's some concern by residents about parking on Anne Suckling's Road. The allotments aren't really part of these plans, although they're shown. Yeah. You did mention that in the previous presentation that there would be parking allocated for people to use the allotments. Are you able to make those assurances within this presentation? And also, there was a discussion about the electrical charging points. The world is moving on somewhat, and in the courted areas, people aren't easily going to be able to charge their cars outside the front of their properties. You spoke about the possibility of electrical charging points being installed in each of the character areas. Is that still possible?
Yep. Shall I just come back on these points? Yeah, certainly. Yeah. First of all, what we'd say, just you mentioned the 4-story element again, just to say that this is a defined character area which is contemporary, so it does differ from the rest of the Haverhill development, and it does differ obviously from the character of Haverhill itself. It was to create something different, but I hear what you're saying again on that point. Turning to the allotments, yes, you're right. That forms part of the infrastructure application, which is currently being amended with a view to resubmit that in the next couple of weeks, I think. The infrastructure application does indeed include parking for the allotment. So there is a defined parking area which would be accessed from Anne Suckling Road to provide, I think it's 9 parking spaces, but I could be wrong, but it's certainly provided within that infrastructure application, which again, you will see coming before you in the next couple of weeks. In terms of EV parking, we recognise that there isn't a policy at present in West Suffolk, but we do also acknowledge that there's a drive towards electric vehicle charging points. And as I said previously in my last presentation, we will certainly be providing them on plot and where appropriate otherwise. But in the communal areas, what we can do is we can provide ducting so that it future-proofs it for electric vehicle charging in the future. For the parking spaces which are within the areas adopted by the County Highways Department, they will not accept charging points within their visitor spaces, but we can look to provide ducting at least to future-proof that within the communal parking courts.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Stuart.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Mason. Councillor David Smith.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. You mentioned that you feel like the development needs this gateway entrance to site. I'm struggling to see the reason for that. I mean, it feels like you're just making a separate community apart from the rest of the town. As one thing to give it its own character, but it looks like you're walling it off almost, like a separate little area of Haverhill. So I'd be interested to see the reason why you think you need this. And also, I'd be interested to see the topography of the site. I mean, how high would these buildings look in relation to the rest of the site from a viewpoint, say, in Ansuckling Road? Would it be possible to do some sort of computer generation graphic to allow us to see that, how it would actually be viewed from Ansuckling Road? Thank you.
Stuart?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, on the 4-story element again, part of the thinking behind this is to deliver the affordable houses as well as some private apartments. And, you know, we're reacting to requirements of the council's housing officer in terms of that. So that's why, to partly justify that, some of them will be apartments to meet the local housing need, and some of them will also be private, to, you know, 2-bedroom apartments there as well. So that's why they're in a block. I don't know if Lisa might want to come in and say some more about the design of that in itself. In terms of how prominent they will look within the landscape, I had said before, I think it was going to try and get a section drawing between Ansuckling Road and the top of the site there, just to demonstrate the lay of the land and how they would sit in that. And that's something I can certainly take on board and present to members. From Ansuckling Road, looking up through the site, I don't think they'd be particularly prominent because you've got all that housing in between the apartment blocks and Ansuckling Road. So I think in terms of how visible would they be, I don't think they would be. And again, Lisa might be able to come in and offer some kind of assurance on that point as well. But the whole idea of the infrastructure road that you can see at the top of your screen coming through from phase 1 was to create height there, because there's an area in between phase 2A, which has been approved, and also phase 2B of open space. So it's appropriate to increase the scale along that particular infrastructure road. Lisa, I don't know if you want to add anything in terms of the design.
I agree what you're saying about Ansuckling Road. In terms of the building form, we've used Trespa paneling on the top to visually reduce the height, sort of to step down visually as best we can in the design. So we've concentrated on a brick form on the corners to create that gateway as you come in, and then it visually steps down into the 3-story element and then down again. That was the process of the elevations.
Lisa, can I ask you which is the highest point? I think sort of Councillor Smith, that might help him a little bit. Which is the highest point on that particular map? Do you know that?
The highest point, it steps up. So from this is the lowest point of the site where the attenuation is, and then it grades upwards towards this boundary.
Oh, to the right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Does that help, Councillor Smith? Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. Is that Michael? Yep. Okay, Michael.
That's me. Talking about the topography, which you are at the moment, when we first moved to Haverhill over 30 years ago, coming in from Cambridge, we would look up from the Cambridge Road and we would see Chapel Farm Cottages, which is a Grade 2 listed building. That is now being overshadowed by a 4-story block of flats. Now, if you can, say in days past, we could see Chapel Farm Cottages from the Cambridge Road. These 4-story flats will be at a high elevation, and they will be seen from a long way away. Just a bit of local knowledge.
Okay, thank you for that. Sorry, I don't know your name, madam. No, you're muted. Can you just say your name and then say what you want? Because I presume Brad is your husband or partner.
Yes, Brad. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, there are I'm just trying to take this all in actually tonight, and I do appreciate some trying to recognise that the what you've done with some bungalows near down Suckling Road. But going back to this gateway idea, I do think it's pretty pretentious, the whole claim that's creating this wonderful gateway to a small little estate, when actually it's about building an extra story to put more people in there. So my question, it just seems completely out of place. I actually do like that style of building. It's just not right, I feel, in that place. And it looks like a huge wall. And I just wonder, how much are you gaining? I know you were saying there's pressure about building extra housing and so on, but it seems to me it's a huge amount of housing going on these sites, and Haverhill is doing a lot, I believe, to try and, you know, increase the housing stock in the country. And if it's a case of, you know, oh, well, we must do this, or we have to, or regulations make us, is that what it's about? Is it about extra profit, or what is it? Because, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't find a very convincing argument that you need to make that 4-storey gateway into that area. Thinking about our estate, Boyton Hall, we've got no gateway into our estate. And in fact, what Persimmon did on the corner made it less of an entrance by not putting trees there than anything. We don't have anything to come onto Boyton Hall. So it's like the opposite, you know, end of the puck thing. But I just do feel that if it's about being a gateway, it seems totally wrong for a small little development.
I
Thank
think if I can come back
Stuart?
just on that point, yes. I mean, I can appreciate locals' concerns about the volume of development that's coming to Haverhill. There is a lot. There's our site, and there's also the Red Rose site across the road. So a significant amount of change for residents, and it's sometimes difficult to grasp and understand why. The first thing I would say is that it's an outline permission that's been granted for 1,150 houses. So in terms of the delivery of these houses, we meet specified densities which are controlled through the design code, and that allows us to build the 127 units within this parcel in compliance with that design code. Turning to the gateway 4-storey again, we could design that potentially as 3.5-storey. You will still get that 4-storey in effect, but the top floor would be in an attic in effect. So the rooms are smaller. It means they've got coombe ceilings in them, so there's less space for cupboards and everything. So the height in them is restricted internally. So the 4-storey or 3.5-storey still presents in effect a 4-storey building. That is our justification. That's what we're seeking to achieve. That it is better to have a properly designed 4-storey than a 3.5-storey, which gives less internal room, and that's the justification we're seeking.
Can I just
come back? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for trying to explain that to me. I do understand about parcels and how many you can put on there. Is it you always work to the absolute maximum for a site, or have you got any leeway in that? Because it seems to me what we're trying to do is force putting in something that doesn't feel comfortable with the area. That's what I feel. It doesn't seem correct. This is for a long time. We're not just building these houses for 10 years. They're for the future. And it seems to me, I don't see particularly a lot of green spaces or trees or anything on this particular site. And I do feel that this is, you know, if you could just answer that, is this that you're the absolute maximum you're allowed in that site, or is there any leeway?
I mean, you're quite right. The permission permits up to 1,150 houses. So as part of our challenge is to ensure that the houses we do fit on will provide an appropriate form of development. And in this particular parcel, there isn't a significant amount of open space. There is open space round the basin. There'll be some open space at the allotments, and there'll also be open space in the north, although a big part of that is handed over for car parking. But throughout the whole scheme, there is significant open space provided, and there'll be provision for play as well within these open spaces through neighbourhood play areas and local play areas. So you can't quite demonstrate it from this plan, but on the wider plan, there is a significant amount of open space, and it might have been helpful if I had had a copy of that to present to you tonight, so you could understand that throughout the development there will be pedestrian links and cycleways all through that site, and a significant amount of the overall parcel for 1,150 units is open space. Indeed, to the northeast of the site here, Lisa, I wonder if it might be possible to bring up the initial site plan, which has the whole of the phased approach here for the whole of the site. It might help you to understand what is being proposed, because there's playing pitches being, just in there. You can see this, our site right in the middle. You can see to the northeast of that, the sports pitches, which will be between phases 1 and 2. And to the west of the phase 2B, you can see the public open space area, which runs right through the site into the southwest corner. That extends all the way down the existing boat and into a public open space just where the cursor is there as well. So scattered throughout the site, and just where the cursor is there as well, there's a lot of areas and provision for open space provided, which we have to adhere to, because again, the open space is set within the parameter plan, which forms part of the approved design code.
Sorry, I'm still not sure exactly how have you gone to the absolute maximum you can build on this site.
Well, we don't know yet what the maximum is, because the 1,150 extends right across through that site that you see in that top slide. So if we go under it, then we'll not deliver the amount of housing that needs to be delivered. Part of it, yes, you're right, is profit. We're a house builder and we want to make profit clearly for the shareholders, but it's also delivering the required or contributing towards the 5-year housing land supply, which West Suffolk Council needs to achieve as well. So yes, it is up to 1,150 units, and it could vary from parcel to parcel.
So I'll just finish off by saying, I don't want to grab any more time really, but just to say, so really what you're saying is there's some flexibility in an area, because sometimes it seems like we have to put these all on this site, so therefore we will put them on the site, rather than is this appropriate and is this presenting a good site that is going to be enjoyable, environmentally friendly, because I know you're saying it's a lot of green areas. In fact, so I'm sorry to go back to our estate, but we haven't got enough green areas on our site to show for play. And I'm not talking about car parks or kind of traditional football pitches. I'm talking about places where you can walk through and actually see trees. And yes, we're losing quite a lot of stuff here. So we haven't on our site got any small informal play areas for children. And there are none close to here either, as far as I can see. Allotments, again, lovely, and I'm glad we're having them, but it's not actually an informal space for children to play or families to meet.
There will be open space. I'm just wondering if I could get your email details.
Yes.
I could send you some further information, which I hope will further explain the reason behind it. Our challenge is to convince the district council who determine the application that what we have designed and what we're proposing is appropriate, and that relates to the whole of the site. And I mentioned the infrastructure application earlier. It might be worthwhile. Again, I can send you details of that application, because it covers that very aspect of the open space that will be delivered as part of this development, the entire development. So if maybe you could contact me directly or through Vicky, I'm happy to.
Through Vicky, or we'll find out. Yeah, I'll sort that out. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Again, I'm still asking for an answer to that about, does that site have to have a number of houses? But thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a follow-up to the discussion on open spaces, I know tonight's meeting is very much focused on the plans being presented tonight, and I very much appreciate that. A significant number of residents have approached me about their concerns about putting planning into practice when it comes to blocking off of public pathways and bridleways, and the excessive destruction of hedgerow. H2 was deemed as important, and there's less than a quarter of the length of that hedgerow left. And Persimmon, for me, are obviously wanting to plough ahead and get these developments built, but we would like, as a community, much more consideration given over to the fact that there are public bridleways that need to be left open and accessible, and that the community really do value the wildlife. And we understand that hedgerows will be taken out. It's not that all hedgerows will be kept. We understand with these developments, but it seems excessive. And so for me, the asking point is, from planning to delivery, can greater consideration be given, A, to the environment, and B, also to the residents who have right of way of access along these paths, which sometimes will be closed off, but good notification for when that happens would be helpful, because it's causing some distress, because, you know, these are open pathways that people use for their dog walking routes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Mason. Yes, your concerns are noted, and Persimmon, we did remove that hedgerow H2 that you referred to in advance of our application for 2A being heard at committee. And, you know, what we want to do now is restore confidence, if you like, to make sure that all the other hedgerows are protected. And as part of the infrastructure application, we have provided an arboricultural method statement which demonstrates what hedges will be protected and how they'll be protected. And almost what we've tried to do is protect these hedges now. So an awful lot of fencing has gone up, and one of the bridleways which you're referring to has now been closed off because the stays for the fence have been put in the wrong side. So in an attempt to try and give assurance to residents and West Suffolk Council and yourself that no harm would come to any further hedges, we've actually done ourselves, well, the locals, a disservice. That particular boat will be reinstated and the stays will be moved to the other side. So that will be opened up again. You know, any bridleways or rights of way that are closed off as part of the development will be kept to a minimum as far as possible. And if I can liaise with our technical department maybe a bit more to find out what's happening and when, I can give you some assurances that I'll keep you on board and maybe have some further regular meetings with you to advise you in advance of which ones will be closed, why they'll be closed, and how long they'll be closed for.
Thank you,
Thank you. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Right. I saw Michael's hand, and then Councillor Burns.
Just a question on the footpaths, which I just mentioned. I understand that there's an application currently under consideration to discharge condition A10 of the original plan, which was including blocking off the footpaths. What seems to have happened at the moment is the fencing has gone up and the application hasn't been approved.
Yeah, as I say, in an effort to restore confidence for local residents, we've maybe been a bit over ambitious in putting fences up just now. And the idea was to give you comfort that nothing was going to happen to these hedges. And as part of the method statement which has been submitted, any work that is due to take place within the protected areas will be subject to a consultant arboriculturist coming out while any works are taking place. So if fences are moved for any reason, someone will be on site to keep an eye on things and make sure that the hedgerows are protected. So would be maybe a bit overzealous in putting fencing up just now. But it's really to ensure that nothing will happen to these fences until such time as conditions are discharged.
Yes, because talking to one of our neighbours at the weekend, who walks his dog regularly over the fields towards the water tower, he's saying the fencing now goes all the way from there down to the House Barn estate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fencing up there, which completely blocks any dog walking anywhere.
I will look into that, and it might be that I do another presentation when the infrastructure application comes in, and that might help members with and locals with their understanding of that, and we can explain things a bit fuller. So in an attempt to secure protection to the hedgerows, as I say, maybe some rights of way have been blocked off when they shouldn't have been blocked off. We don't want to do that. And we need to maybe work a bit closer with our construction colleagues to ensure that the appropriate rights of way are left open and not closed off unless they need to be closed off, and explain fully why they need to be closed off.
I think one of the other things is that if you have to close off a footpath for any particular reason, why can there not be an alternative put into place?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right there, that if we are closing them off, there will be alternatives, hopefully, and moves afoot to direct people away from them. The reason they're closed off is for public safety, and it is a temporary solution. Construction will have to take place. We don't want anyone to become injured. So there will be appropriate diversions where necessary, and my technical colleagues deal with that side of things. But I'll make sure that I speak to them and we can get an idea of what's going to be closed off when, and as I say, for how long it will be closed off, so there's as minimal disruption as possible and alternative routes provided for people who want to explore the countryside and take their dog for a walk.
I think the length of time was mentioned up to 52 weeks.
Yeah, it could well be 52 weeks. We're going to be on site for quite considerable time, so I can check that timing. But if that's been what's submitted, then we await the council's view on that when they discharge the condition.
I think it would all be so much better if we understood that all this work was due to the putting in the bypass. And I think we'd be more appreciative of it then.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can provide an update on the bypass. The relief road is something we are extremely keen to proceed with. And I know that councillors have expressed, and residents, the desire to get that up and running as quickly as possible. So in terms of the first phases of that, I have got a note because I specifically asked for this before the meeting tonight. So the next phase is planned from the 8th of March to the 30th of March, and that's to install the arms of the roundabout in the eastern end there into the northeastbound lane. So there'll be a traffic light system. So that will be something that's happening very soon. I'm pleased to say that, and I'm sure you'll all be pleased to hear that we're progressing swiftly with that. The reason for submitting the conditions for A8 was one of them, and all the A conditions, if you like, from the hybrid application, was to allow us to get cracking with that. We are aiming to get that delivered before the trigger points in the 106, and which are before 500th occupation or 5 years, whichever is the sooner. We are intending to get cracking with that and deliver that well in advance of the triggers so that that relief road is delivered. And to get over the first hurdle there, where we're hoping that the tree conditions that are applied to the roads planning permission can be dealt with as soon as possible, because we want to do that within the nesting season. Our hope is to get that done within the next few weeks, because if we don't, that's going to set us back 6 months on the delivery of that relief road, which is not what we want. And these conditions are in with the council at present to discharge
Thank you. Councillor Burns and then Brad.
Yeah, we've answered something, Stuart. I thank you for your email last week, by the way.
Welcome.
Yeah, the relief road, you know, as you quite rightly say, we all want it done. You know, we've been waiting. Well, it's 50 years next year. We've been waiting for that road to be built. I was going to ask you a couple of things on, well, one on the relief road. You've answered about the schedule, which I did know about the roundabout coming up. Are you, I'm going to say the word happy, satisfied that the West Suffolk Council officers, particularly the tree officer, is working hard to get this done? Because we can't have a 6 months delay because somebody wants a particular tree in one location. And if necessary, we could put pressure on West Suffolk to actually spend 100% of their time working on the project. This is a major infrastructure thing for Haverhill, not only to facilitate, your site and Red Rose site, but also to relieve the traffic when we do get back to normal, as I mentioned many times before, Withersfield Road and places like that, which are high nitrous oxide levels. So if you have got a problem with that, just let me know and we can do something. Secondly, on the roundabout which is going up northeast, and it's actually relevant to the next agenda item, is one of the things I've mentioned is that highways reckon they don't know where the A143 is going to be coming out or the site of the roundabout, which is crazy when the roundabout's been built for, I don't know, a year and a half, whenever how long it's been there for. And of course, the 143. So, I mean, can you just confirm that we're building the arms of the roundabout, we're going to join up the 143 and divert it west, effectively, to the roundabout, and after March, the end of March, let's say, will that roundabout be in full operation?
That's what I understand. Yeah. And you can just see the line of the
that's fine.
In that plan there. So I don't foresee a problem there. It's certainly going to be traffic lights for a while, but then that should be up and running.
Yeah, I've seen it on roadworks.org, the traffic lights are coming. Okay, and final one on this is going back to the outline planning permission. And obviously I know it's before your time, and I think I have mentioned this before, is you mentioned a couple of times tonight about the 1,150 houses. Is at that outline, Anglian Water made a very strong statement that they could not cater for more than 750 houses or units, let's call them, across the whole site. Has that ever been resolved? Because I was at that meeting in 2000, I think it was 2015, I think it was.
Right.
Has that ever been resolved? Because that was something that other developments in Haverhill have the same problem on the west of town, where particularly not necessarily surface water, but certainly sewage was a problem. I mean, I presume you're aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, we have got a drainage strategy that covers the whole of the site, so I'm assuming that it should have been addressed, but I'm not probably best placed to answer that because I'm not an engineer. But I can find out about that and come back to you, either to the town council through Vicky or individually to you, Councillor Burns.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spin a yarn here because I don't like to get involved.
No. But of course, you're doing it. You're doing a phased approach. Is really what I was referring to. Is that if you finally get to phase 4, whatever it is, 5B, which I think it is, you may find that Anglian Water put their hands up in horror and say sorry.
That would be a problem for us. So
of course it would. Of course it would. Thank you.
I'm making some notes and I've put a big asterisk beside that one, and I'll check with my construction, my technical director tomorrow and raise that with him.
All right. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Brad?
Yeah, thanks. Mine's it's taken us back just a moment, and it's really a message to, I don't know, it's the town council, I think it's the county council really. We, having put in concern about routes being blocked off and things like that, what we don't ever get is any feedback about that. And it's just a plea for somebody to say, actually, we've got the message and we're doing something about it, and then coming back and saying what's been done, which is not to Stuart, but it is to, as I say, whoever it is I need to talk to.
Yeah, I mean,
So sorry, but your line is sort of jumpy.
Right, okay.
There's a lot of it I can't understand. Perhaps Councillor Mason, was you talking about a councillor?
No.
No, I was talking about when we've put concerns in. Are you getting this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear
Yes,
you
better.
now.
Yeah, when we put concerns in about, say, rights of way being blocked off, what we
Right.
never get is any feedback about what's happened.
Right. Well, hopefully, Stuart.
It's a plea for that to happen, really.
Yeah, so
Hopefully, Stuart, come back on that, please.
who have you approached? Is it the county council? It's probably
County council.
Can I just say, first of all, when the hedge was, a huge amount of hedge was removed very early, the environmental officer was involved, and I haven't had any information back apart from saying he was looking into it in November. Similarly, with rights of way 3 weeks ago, nothing's come back from the town. We've heard that the rights of way access officer was looking at it, but nobody ever comes back to us to say we're looking into this, or we are going to deal with it, or what will happen. So we feel it's you feel quite vulnerable looking out and seeing bulldozers and all kinds of stuff happening, but people don't seem to come back to tell you what is going on. But I know you've got lots on tonight, but that's something, we want to know, where do we take this up from, to make sure we are getting information.
I can't answer. Yeah, I can't answer for the county council, but your frustrations of lack of response from county council echoes what we feel as well, to be perfectly honest, sometimes. But what might be a good idea for me to do is try to, I'll get some of our designers to draw up a plan that maybe shows all the rights of way on it and what's going to be blocked off and when, as I said earlier. Would you think that's something that might help? And I can send that back to Vicky, and then it can be shared out and distributed amongst all of you, so that at least you know what rights of way will be affected.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll make a note of that.
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah.
Councillor Burns again.
Yeah, I was going to say, Stuart, one thing might, I don't want to suggest something out of your competitor's book across the road, as it were, is that they, whenever they've got anything to propose or say or give you an update, not only do they have a dedicated website for Great Willsey, but they also send out local information bulletins to at least the people who are alongside the estate.
Yeah,
the people know what's going on. And I think, from the Boyton Hall area, that might be, from a customer services point of view, something that you may want to consider is, okay, guys, we're doing this infrastructure plan. We're going to have to shut this right away off for X number of weeks, So people, like the Strackens is, it would be knowing full well what's going on. And if it doesn't happen, then they can quite rightly complain.
Thank you for that. That's a good point, actually. I think what we generally do once we get construction underway on sites that are immediately adjacent to existing residential properties is we would do a leaflet drop or a letter, and that would happen probably when phase 2B gets underway. What has perhaps been overlooked here is the impact it's got on residents, even though that construction is taking place, 5-minute walk away or something to the northern approaches of the site. So if you leave that with me, I'll have a word and see if there's something that we can do, whether it's a leaflet or maybe it's a newsletter that can go on a website, or something that at least goes out to the town council, and then if they get calls about it, then at least they'll have information firsthand. So I'll leave that with me and I will have a look at that.
I mean, just a little follow-up, a couple of, if I may, Chair, a couple of little follow-ups to that. One is, we do have if people watch Facebook, not Facebook, watch it, log on to Facebook. We have a very proactive Facebook page, which, when you've sent us updates before, I will put there. The other question I forgot to ask was actually for Lisa, a simple one is, Which Colin are you referring to when you mention Colin? Because obviously we have Colin Paul, our town clerk, but it's not him.
Lisa?
Yeah, Stuart, sorry, Collins, I can't remember his surname off the top of my head.
Oh, it's not Colin, is the urban designer with West Suffolk Council, Colin Dunnigan.
Oh, never heard of him. Okay, because he hasn't, as far as I know, he hasn't bothered talking to us about anything, but okay.
All right, he works quite well. He is the urban designer who looks at all the schemes throughout West Suffolk. I think he's a bit of a one-man band, but
Okay.
he acts as an internal consultee. So he's worked very closely with Penny Mills on.
Yeah, I know Penny, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so he's worked with her. He's
okay, no, I've never heard of her. I don't know if any of the other West Suffolk councils have, but no, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else? I can't see anyone. Right. Thank you, Stuart, and thank you, Lisa. And
thank you.
Thank you. And looking forward to the next presentation.
As I say,
thank you very much for doing this.
We'll maybe do a presentation on the infrastructure when it comes in again, which will be coming before too long, and we'll focus on the public open space, because obviously there's been concerns raised about that, and I'd like to have a chance to talk through these aspects of it as well. But in the meantime, you know, if any of you have any questions, you want to pick up the phone and speak to me or send me an email, either directly or through your local councillors or through the town council, I'm happy to respond. And just thank you for your time again tonight, for letting Lisa and I come forward and explain the proposals coming before you.
Thank you very much. It's been a really good help. Thank you.
Okay.
Vicky?
Would you like me to send you the next few dates for the planning meetings, and then you can let me know if you want to attend any of them?
That would be very helpful, Vicky, and at least, if nothing else, we can programme in for the infrastructure, and where we're not attending, maybe provide further updates. Before tonight's meeting in the past, I have provided updates on just generally how things are going with house sales and that sort of thing as well, which I think is useful to the town council. We've pretty much sold all the houses on phase one. It's been remarkable the last year being a COVID year. Houses are still selling and selling very well. And in fact, we've sold 3 units already on phase 2A. So it looks as if it's going to go extremely quickly as well.
Thank you, Stuart. Good news. Good news.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Manus? Wait, you've gone. She's gone. Councillor McManus, did you have your hand up?
No, sorry, no, just wanted
to
Stuart and Lisa for their time. Thank you.
Right, okay, thank you. Sorry, I see you sort of wave, so I thought you might have had your hand up. Right, anyway, thank you very much.
I'll leave the meeting now, if that's
right,
all.
thank you.
Okay.
And
thank you very much.
Bye, Lisa.
Thanks.
Bye, Stuart. As I say, Michael and Christine and Brad, I don't know if you want to stay on and see the rest, or whether you go, it's up to you. But if you do go, thank you very much for attending. Been very good. Thank you very much.
Can I just say, yes, we would probably like to attend, because I believe you're going to discuss the Fox next.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
We will stay for that, please.
Right. Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 6, which is the Fox. To note, email dated the 21st of January 2021 from Kerry Cooper, previously circulated, and to consider the town's council's objections to this application submitted in April 2020. Okay, anyone want to speak? Councillor Burns, and then Councillor Dave Smith.
Okay, I can let the members go first if you want, Chair. It's up to you.
No, it's gone.
Are you happy for me to go? Okay, all right, that's fine. Well, you may have seen my comments on the planning application. it does annoy me where they publish your address and everything, which is sort of pointless when we've just been told that they've taken it off the West Suffolk website. Anyway, that's another matter. You know, all along I've said, great, redevelop the pub, not a problem. I would like to have seen it such that it was more facing the Red Road development rather than facing the road, and having the backside, if you like, facing that. But more importantly, it's all to do about the access into the site. You probably saw my note that I was astounded at Highway's comments, and that's why I asked Stuart about the roundabout, where they say, we don't know where the roundabout's going, we don't know how the road is going to go, so we can't possibly understand how we can get an arm off that roundabout to use this site. They're proposing putting an access road in, which is less than 70 metres north of the roundabout. Even if the roundabout's 30 miles an hour, which I'm assuming it will be, people can come around that roundabout or off the bypass, off the relief road rather, and be facing a vehicle stopped in the middle of the road trying to turn right into the thing. Also, equally, people coming out of the site, unless there's some sort of restriction, will be trying to turn right out of that site rather than turning left and going around a roundabout and coming back on themselves. I also mentioned about the volume of traffic along the 143 at the moment. You know, as I said, there's on average 10,000 vehicles a day pass that point in both directions, that is, of course. Some of which will go down the relief road, of course, we hope, to avoid going down to the town centre. But that's excluded what we're going to be coming off the Great Willesey or off the Northwest Persimmon site. So we have, and you know, I go back to what Tony Brown and myself were told about 5 years ago, where Highways told us all they could tell us about the volume of traffic in the future was it would be substantial. So that was basically, if you've read that, those two comments I put, that's my view anyway, as adjacent ward member to this site. It is only just in Little Rattin, all by 30 yards. So that's something to consider. But equally, you know, probably in the next CGR review, community governance review, we'll push for those to be put back into Haverhill. It's crazy we've got that little V. Why we have agreed to that, I don't know. So that's my comments at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, the last time that came up, that review, the people in the cottages, they objected to it, and that's the reason. And that's the reason why that stayed in Withersfield.
Well, it's in Withersfield district.
Sorry,
Withersfield district. Yeah. It was, but it was something that we. It was crazy when you consider the two developments are now basically surrounded them. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, perhaps they'll think differently next time, but right, okay. Councillor Dave Smith.
Yeah, perhaps I should have spoken first because I was pretty much what John was going to say. That what John said there. That's all right. No problem. Yeah, if they do deem that the roundabout is too small to have the fifth arm of it, I mean, to redirect the traffic by stopping right-hand turns in and out of the site would be the obvious solution, because those two roundabouts are going to be very, well, I don't know what the distance is, 100 meters, 200 meters apart. You know, it's no great, it's not very onerous to direct traffic.
I think you said 70 meters, I think.
No, I think 7 meters for the entrance, wasn't it?
Sorry, Chair. There's two roundabouts going there, one for the Great Willesey, one for the relief road. Right. I worked it out roughly about 70 meters. Because there's no real good dimensions on these things, but it could well be a lot less than that, the actual entrance. And I think, just to confirm before Dave carries on, this would be the fourth arm off the roundabout, Dave, not the fifth.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right, yeah.
I believe.
But because of the bend in the road, you know, the road way the 143 will be bending, it probably leaves probably too small an area for that arm to come off there. But as you know, I'm not much more to add really. And in fact, apart from the fact that I'm surprised that Highways just deemed that as a safe method of entering the site.
Yeah, they've either not looked at the plans or they've got no idea of what Haverhill Road is. it shocked me that they should have looked at the plans or even found out information on it, asked about it. That's what they should have done.
Yeah, I don't think they've
Well,
actually taken any notice of what we've said as a town council.
No, they haven't. No, not at all. They mostly didn't look that far into the plans, because you know, there's a few hundred things in them plans. So I don't know whether we should sort of send this to our comments to Suffolk County Council. I think that would be better directly, and perhaps they will take more notice of it. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels. Councillor Stinchcombe?
Can I propose that we do both, Chair? You know, that we submit a comment in a normal way, mentioning specifically the highways comments, but also copy it effectively to highways. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Is there? Yes, Councillor Burns?
Well, I was just going to come back, Chair. I'm a little bit annoyed that the planning officer hasn't responded to my comments as the local ward member. I know, I think it was Mr. and Mrs. Strachan earlier on mentioned about no response from councillors, but they haven't mentioned it. You know, there's some valid points there, particularly about the location of the roundabout and everything like that. And there's no further highways comments. You know, it appears that the officer is taking the existing planning office, the highways comments as gospel. You know, well, we know where the roundabout's going. As I said, you know, we found out 20 minutes ago it's going to be open at the end of March. You know, I find it extraordinary.
Yeah, I enormously agree on that, really. It's, as I say, it's not right. Obviously, pushing it that fast as well. You know, you can't blame them, want them to go quickly, but when they've got this Fox problem, they need to take notice of what we say. Right, is there any more comments on that at all? Okay, right, can I have a proposer then that we, is that proposing, Councillor Sitchcombe, yeah, that we send comment to West Suffolk Council and copy it into Suffolk County Council Highways? Vicky?
Are we resubmitting our original comments or the comments that John has mentioned?
Well, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're the same as what we mentioned before. Councillor Burns, can you come back? Or
well, I was going to only suggest maybe you just do a combination of both. If there is extra in my bit, you know, make a, what would you call it? Complementary, supplementary. I can't remember the complementary. Composite. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, composite.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, we've got a proposal from Councillor Stinchcombe. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Dave Smith. All those in favour, please show. Yep. Everyone. Right. Thank you very much. Right. Thank you. If you going, are you both going now? Both? Yeah. Right. Thank you very much again. Thank you for attending. Bye.
Okay.
Right. The item now is for members of the public. I said goodbye to them. It doesn't matter. I expect they've got nothing else to say.
Can I just say one thing whilst we're talking? I think the redevelopment of the Fox is a very important part of the new buildings going on around this area. Yeah. It will provide a central amenity for a lot of people. And I would like to think that the council would try and push it through as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
And
thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Right, item 8. Consider planning applications to West Suffolk Council. List A, nothing on. List B, which is DC, which is item 1, DC 210113HH, conversion of garage to habitable rooms, 2 rooms, and this is 15 Slaters Drive. Is there any comments on this at all? No? Councillor Snitchcombe?
They do have plenty of parking shown in their block plan, I think it is.
Yeah.
Except that it's not independently accessible. It's a sort of, I'll take my car out to let yours out kind of set up. But, you know, technically there is enough space on there, I guess. So I would propose neutral on this.
Okay. I'll second that. I'll second neutral. Okay. And can I have a vote for neutral, please? Yep, everyone. Right, thank you very much. Item 2, which is DC 210069 TPO. It's TPO 084, which is part of the 1982. That's what that is. It's tree preservation order. There's 2 of them. There's A, 1 willow, which is W1 on the plan, and the order is T5. Repollard to previous pollarding points, and B, 1 Lawson Sempress, which is a what do they call them? What do they call these?
Conifer.
Conifers. That's it. It's company. Thank you, Councillor Sitchin, for that. Which is C1 on the plan and T2 on the order, and that's overall crown reduction by up to 3 metres, and this is 18 Ratting Road. Okay, Elaine, thank you very much. Elaine's leaving the meeting. Any comments? Councillor Stitchcombe first and then Councillor Mason.
I was actually waving goodbye to Elaine, but I will propose neutral if no one else has got anything to say on it.
Right, Councillor Mason.
Yes, other than the fact that I walk along the pathway along Ratting Road often, and those trees do need regular pruning and looking after. Without that, it actually becomes problematic for pedestrians on the pathway. So I would encourage these tree works to take place.
Thank you. Right, we've got a proposer for a neutral, which is Councillor Stinchcombe. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Davison. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Yeah, everyone. Thank you. And the third and last one, which is DC 210179HH, A, single story front extension following demolition of existing porch, and B, drop curb 43 Falcon Close. Any comments on this one? Councillor Burns?
Right, well, fundamentally I don't have a problem. This is an identical house to mine. It's an unusual that they've already got a porch which has been stuck on at some point. All those houses either had internal porches or they had flat walls, if you like. I don't have a personal problem with it, other than they need to be really concerned about the fact the outside wall is a major supported wall for the whole building if they're going to start doing things like that. But that's building control problem. It's more to do with the fact of the parking length available on the driveway. I mean, I get my car on my drive. I don't have that stuck out, but I just went out and quickly measured my next door neighbour, who's exactly the same. They've got the same stuck out bit, and from allowing for the fact they've got to put their bins somewhere, because the bin men don't come to the back of Falcon Close, they come to the front. There's just 5 metres before you get to the footpaths. And of course, there's no real dimensions on that drawing. So I think they need to be wary of that distance. And the stuff they normally submit, based on stuff I've had to do for other residents, is you normally have to put dimensions on the drawing that you submit to prove that you can actually get the vehicles on there. It's going to be very tight. The next door neighbour's currently got a Land Rover Discovery or something on it, and the back end is just slightly over protruding the footpath, where the front end is about 4 inches away from their bins. So just to give you an example. Thank you.
Councillor Dave Smith.
I think the main issue for me is that they're talking about relocating a lamppost. I mean, who does that sort of work? I don't see how you can put that as part of your plan to move an item that doesn't belong to you. That just seems a bit strange. And I noticed that they haven't sort of had any pre-application advice from the council either. So I would have thought that that would have been flagged up then. So that does seem a bit strange to me.
I think personally we should flag that up. They haven't been in touch. Councillor Sitchcombe.
I'm looking at the. Well, I think I agree with everything that's been said so far. The dropped curb application, of course, is totally separate from what we're considering now, as I've said before, and that actually does say there's an absolute minimum of 5 meters from anything that's protruding from the front of your house, like a porch or a bay window or anything like that. And it sounds like it's borderline, but that's why they're paying £300 for their drop curb application, isn't it? To get a highways officer to go around there with the tape measure and actually check them out. I mean, this could all fail, but that's their lookout, isn't it? And you can't get pre-application advice on a drop curb application. You might from planning, for the planning aspects of it, but there is no such thing as pre-application advice. They basically want your 300 quid up front, and then they'll keep it if you fail. Is how they offer. Is how county operate, I think. So this could all fail. The other thing I was concerned with is it within 15 meters possibly of the centre line of the trying to think, are they too close to the junction is what I'm trying to say, but they need to be 15 meters away from, I guess it's the centre line of the main road. I guess they're just about that far, but I don't have any properly scaled block plan that's going to enable me to establish that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
I think the property next door, which is near the junction, has already got a drop curb. Whether that sets a precedent, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that come back. I'll come to you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Sitchcombe.
Yeah, the other thing, sorry, I should have said the other reason they might fail in their drop curb application, which is not our lookout, is that they've actually shown an actual lowered portion of curb according to the scale of 1 in 50, which is 3.9 meters wide. And I'm looking at the criteria that say you can't have more for a single property, you can't have more than 3.6 meters wide. So, and there's a bloody lamppost in the way. So, it's quite likely to fail for multiple reasons, isn't it? But that's none of that is our lookout really. That's all we've got to say is, do we think it's undesirable on planning grounds? And actually, I don't think it's undesirable on planning grounds. I think I'm going to stick my hand up and propose neutral on planning grounds, and it will probably fail on drop curb grounds. But that's not what we're here to determine, is it?
Quite right.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Burns.
Yeah, Councillor Stinchcombe probably said, that on these roads, we have 2, maybe 3 lampposts down the road. When they're not turned off at 11:30 at night, it gets relatively quite dark down there. Particularly as they use some strange. They're not LEDs or anything. I've never understood why they never converted into LEDs. To move that lamppost is going to be very extremely expensive for them. And I suspect it may well fail because highways say, no, we're not. Because if you move it to next door, well, in fact, there isn't ability to move it next door, you're going to have exactly the same problem. Somebody else might want to drop curb later on. many drop curbs, unfortunately, on these estates, or this Bird's estate particularly, have been put in without necessarily any planning permission over the years. I know quite a few people have done that, got a contractor who done it, and because highways don't come out and inspect them. They don't even look at the plans other than on paper. They don't come and measure anything. I mean, I had a drop curb put on mine. I did it all legally and everything else. Not one person came around and had a look. They never checked it up afterwards. And the contractors who told me about who did it for me, which cost me a hell of a lot of money, basically say they never inspect their work. So from a planning point of view, I'm just concerned about that 5 meters length. That would be the only thing I'd be concerned about. I'll forget the rest of it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do you want them comments that's been made to them, even though I noticed that Councillor Stitchcombe has proposed neutral? Can I have sort of advice on that from a committee member or Councillor Stitchcombe?
Well, I guess it's worth including the bit about the lighting, isn't it? That's a new issue. That is more of a planning issue. You know, I'd be perfectly happy for their extension to go ahead and for them to have their drop curb if highways will permit it. If there is somewhere else that the lamppost can reasonably go, you know, can go the other side of the road, or you know, in a piece of, because there has to be preserved curb between every set of dropped curbs. Yeah, there's always, you can't have two adjacent, you can have a shared access for two properties, but you can't have two single accesses without there being a minimum of, I don't know, 5 or 7 meters or something in between. And that's where you stick your lamppost if that provides enough light. So I think we just need to flag that, don't we, that, you know, subject to highways agreeing that they can light the street safely and securely, I'd still propose neutral, but you know, with that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Got that, Vicky? Yeah, right. Okay, anyone else? Right, Councillor Stitchcombe is proposing neutral. Can I have a seconder for that? I'll second it. Oh, right. All right. Councillor Davison, second it. Right. Okay. All those in favour, please show. Yeah, everyone. Right. Thank you very much.
I thought that was going to fail due to lack of popular support then.
No, we just, it's been a long meeting, I think. Right. I need to get back to my agenda. Which is matters to report. Now, we've got a matters report that came through today from Colin. It's about the local list. Vicky, do you want to sort of expand on that? You're muted.
I think it was to bring it to the attention of the councillors, with it in mind to have a look at the list and see if there are any missing or anything to add. Councillor Brown?
Yeah,
Councillor Burns?
I had a quick look at it. I didn't see it until shortly before the meeting, but it looks like Flint Cottage, Bumpstead Road isn't included.
Who, sorry?
Flint Cottage, remember we had a huge battle around trying to save it in Bumpstead Road, so it'd be pretty ironic for it not to be on that list. And also, I don't know, John may know, the cottages that were next to the Haverhill development opposite the old White Hart. Jason done a huge amount saving those. I don't know if they're listed or not. I see numbers, but I don't know if they're the actual numbers or not. Is that true, John? I don't know. Is it on the list?
85 to 87 High Street are not on the list.
Right.
Are the cottages.
They could be on the list, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Have you finished, Tony? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Chair. Let me, if I'm next, am I?
Burns? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So 85, 87 High Street I mentioned. I'm a bit disappointed with some of the, it's not about just adding things to this, it's also about removing things from it. This is a, it's not a Haverhill local list, it's a non-listed heritage asset list. That's the important thing. And I've been chasing for 5 years, since I brought this up at planning in 2015 for this to be updated, when our wonderful conservation officers said they've got no legal requirement to update it. And of course, it hasn't been updated for 24 years now. So I think we need to look at it. I can't think, we've already seen it for a little while. I think we need to spend time. Sorry, Vicky.
Yeah, I don't think it was for you to just decide tonight,
No,
but
no, it's fine.
bring it up as matters.
The only thing I was going to say is I already had a list of all the not English heritage, what do you call it? Heritage England stuff. And I noticed that there are some things maybe on the list, but not necessarily described. For example, one of the grade 2 listed things is garden wall, approximately 5 metres southwest of the Weavers. On English heritage, I'm talking about. So we need to make sure that what's already on, although we're not touching the grade 2 listing, of course, is that we need to be conscious that they are included. But equally on the negative side, and I understand this came from the book that they wrote, which I personally have never seen, but some of the building in Queen Street, as examples, and I just got a feeling that we need to, really look at them. And I don't understand how they've done some of these, but things like the Haverhill Dental Centre, it may be great for the Haverhill Dental Centre, but is it really a heritage building? Personally, I'll probably knock the thing down tomorrow.
Yeah, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, that Haverhill Dental Centre, that used to be Haverhill, if that's what I'm thinking of. That used to be the Haverhill Rope and Twine building. It's quite a historic building, that is, actually, John.
That one, I'm thinking of the one next door to the council offices. Am I not thinking about the same place?
Yeah, that's the one. That was the old Haverhill Rope and Twine shop.
Okay, well, I would like to have seen their justification for each of these buildings.
Yeah.
Because it's great just listing something, but the thing about the local list, the original one, which I don't know if, sorry, I'm just trying to get the picture back. The original local list, which some of you may have seen before, it actually says things like 17 Hamlet Road, small mid-19th century cottage. It describes why it should be on the list.
Well, maybe that's something for us to do then.
Yeah, so I think there's work in progress, I would argue. Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
Yeah, we need to sort of answer Vicky on this particular list, so she can, the reasons why it should be kept. Right, Councillor Lucrini, did you put your hand up?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, right. Because I thought it did, and then Councillor Liz Smith. Yeah, I've seen you, Councillor. But Councillor Lucrini did put his hand up when Councillor Brown and Councillor Burns put their hands up. So I'll go to him first.
Yeah, the biggest one I think that's missing is the silk mill on Colne Valley Road, 1860s silk mill. I think it opened at the same time as the railway station. And the other one is 27 Old Clements Lane. Again, has links to the weaving industry. This come up recently that they wanted to take down the house to put, I think, 3 or 4 dwellings on the site instead.
Thank you very much. Councillor Liz Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification really about the difference between the listed and unlisted on this list. I'm assuming that it means that because these are sort of heritage, properties of interest locally, but is it just that the listed ones are actually formally listed as grade listed buildings and the others aren't? Am I correct? I just want to check that.
Vicky?
John's nodding his head. John will know more about that.
If I just, just want, I could go back, Chair. Yes, you're dead right there, Liz. Anything at English Heritage grade listed cannot be touched unless it goes through the formal planning process. You know, whether it's changed to thing or worse still, things like Gertie's demolishing it, that sort of stuff. The non-heritage list has to be considered by the planners when they look at something, but it doesn't stop them being knocked down or changed or anything like that. It's just the fact. So I know if Jason was here, he would have explained he's tried to get the silk mill down at Atherton and Ellis listed, but they refused to do that. But unfortunately, that building is now looks like it's going to be pulled down anyway.
Thanks for that. I just wanted to check to make sure.
Yeah.
Right, thank you, Liz. Councillor Dave Smith.
Just a small point on the list is it's actually showing the old wards on there rather than the current ones. Don't know if that needs to be updated at all. It's just got the north, south, east, and west at the moment. The other thing is a little bit controversial here. I mean, when you talk about buildings of local of interest, are you just saying because they're old, they're interesting? Because I'll argue that there are some newer buildings that may be worthy of listing.
Anyone got a comment on? No. Councillor Burns.
Well, I agree totally, Dave. Sorry, I agree totally. It's of interest is the important thing. You know, I think if I vaguely remember, wasn't like the laundrette in Queen Street included? Did I see that? I may be wrong, but I thought I did. You know, it's looking at the building and also something, if you look at it and say, well, actually, architecturally, that was well done. And in 100 years' time, it'll be grade 2 listed. And I would agree totally. Yeah, that's my personal view anyway.
Thank you. Colin?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to remind councillors, this piece of work that Vicky and Alicia undertook, it came about because of dating back quite a few years to the whole issue of we were unable to get a new local list updated by West Suffolk. And there was then a request to the local history group to list, do their own, if you like, their own private local list of what they thought were notable properties. They did that and they produced a lovely book. Unfortunately, the project veered away from a list of buildings into a book of buildings. And so it became, it's actually, the defining set was the number of pages in the book. So that's why the book is what it is, and it has got the descriptions that you're asking for in the books. Councillors then said, well, what we need is to bring the book, the local list, and the Heritage England list together in one place so that we can see all of them together and then start the debate of what we think should constitute a official local list that we would then pitch to West Suffolk conservation officers. So all Alicia in particular was doing, but Vicky and Alicia were doing, is bringing those lists for the first time in one single place. So Vicky would be taking notes of what you've thrown in the mix already, but certainly if anything's been skipped, we need to update that list. But this is kind of like the starting point. We can now have the discussions on what should be in the list, and perhaps add, if you can think of things to add to the list or anything that's been omitted that was already on the list, so that we end up with a list that contains what everybody thinks, and then have a discussion about what would make an official local list. That will undoubtedly mean weeding some of the things off it, but at least for the first time we've actually identified, or at least felt we've identified, everything that counts as a notable building. And the book does include modern buildings like St Felix Church, etc., is in there. So it might be worth us getting hold of some more copies of that book. I assume they're in the local history group room. There was one on Vicky's desk. I don't know whether it's still in my in tray, which is probably about 4 foot thick by now. But yeah, it may be useful for councillors to see some more copies of that. We can perhaps get some and circulate them, and do it that way around.
Thank you, Colin. Before I get to Tony, is the old Cangle School on there? It is. And is St Mary's or church, or is St Mary's Church separate? Is that on there as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right. Thank you.
So
Right.
they're listed buildings.
So they don't need to be on there, really.
No.
Then?
No.
Right. Okay.
Well,
Thanks for
they
that.
not on the non-heritage asset list. No.
Right.
But
Thank you.
this is a list of all of the assets, including the ones that are listed by Heritage England, but they're in separate sections on the database, so you can see very clearly which ones are listed officially by Heritage England, which ones are identified by the local history group, and which ones were on the 1997 list that John mentioned.
Yeah, but what West Suffolk need is effectively a replacement for the 1997 list.
Yeah, but we need a complete list of everything so that we can then whittle it down to what we want to.
Oh yeah,
nominate as-
yeah.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It may be worth putting it out to the residents to ask them if there's any buildings, just in case, we miss any, and there may be, buildings in the town that are absolutely dear to residents. So, it'd be nice to be able to put it out, via Facebook or something like that, just to ask if there are any interesting buildings, etc., that they would like, listed. Yeah.
Very good point. Thank you for that. Councillor Burns?
Yeah, a good idea, Tony. I was just wondering whether we could get that list as it is up on the website, and then we could set up a form on the website. You can still obviously link from Facebook, but it gives other people who don't use Facebook the chance to have a form that gets emailed to Alicia or somebody, so we can update the list.
Yeah.
Is that a good idea?
Yeah. Councillor Stitchcombe?
Thank you. I was just going to say that would be another Google Sheet, wouldn't it? Because that automatically, Google Form, because that automatically appears, you don't have to email anyone, it automatically appears on Vicky's computer, on her Google Sheet that's linked to the Google Forms. So that we know how to do that. We have the technology, we can do that.
More concerned with spamming people putting rubbish in there, that was all. Yeah. No, that's fine, right?
Right. Okay. That's it. Back to the. Is there any other matters to report at all? No. Councillor Burns?
Yeah, the only thing which I alluded to earlier on about Redrow, I've emailed them what's happening about the entrance that they built opposite, funny enough, Falcon Close, where they're supposed to be enlarging the roundabout by Westfield School. It's been built there for months now. Built there, a little bit of concrete's been laid and then just a mud thing, but they don't seem to be doing any work there. They made a great effort of putting that entrance in, and I've gone back to them and said, look, what are you doing? Are you going to be doing the roundabout soon, or are you not? If not, can you come back and tidy the place up a bit? But at the moment, I'm not getting any answer. I was going to talk to Penny Mills and see if she's talking to them. I know last time they were furloughed, so I don't know if that's happening now. But so just mention that. That was the only thing I've got up here anyway.
Okay. You got that, Vicky? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Right. Thank you, everyone. The date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 2nd of March. And thank you, everyone, for this long meeting. And thank you, everyone, for attending. And I'll see you at that particular time, which is on the 2nd of March. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.